They thought he was just a driver, but then they tried to clap his girl. So picture this, Drive kicks off with a dude who is shockingly called Driver. Creative, chilling in a room and making a phone call. I mean, who needs a creative name anyway? He's the kind of getaway driver you'd want on your team for a bank robbery, or maybe just to beat your friends in Mario Kart. Right now he's negotiating a new heist on the phone, telling the other guy he's got a whole 5 minutes to do his thing. After that, all bets are off. Then, like a boss, he says to forget this cell number, as if it's a bad breakup. Mic drop, exit room. Our main man Driver gets involved in all things cars, from street racing and fixing rides to stunting like a pro and leading cops on wild goose chases. Later, he meets up with his boss, Shannon, who's got a sweet sports car all prepped up for the next epic escape. And off he goes, waiting for two robbers to do their thing. Driver's got a heart of gold, though. He's soft-spoken, chill, but can also be tougher than a $2 steak. He's not the talkative type, but he sure does show you what he means through his actions. Meanwhile, he's got a connection to the police station's radio, which helps him stay one step ahead. As the first robber jumps in with a bag of cash, Driver sets a 5-minute timer, cause he's punctual as hell. The second robber is running late, but Driver is nothing if not patient. Lucky for them, the second guy shows up just in time, and they're off like a prom dress. But the police are on their tail. Driver's quick thinking helps them hide in the shadows before they zoom off again, dodging helicopters and giving the cops a run for their money. They stop at a red light where they're spotted by a patrol car, but Driver doesn't sweat it. He hits the gas as soon as the light turns green, and they're off again. Our man Driver, being the sneaky genius that he is, tunes into the police radio and uses it to outsmart the fuzz. Finally, he slips into a garage, parks the car, and just casually strolls away, passing a cop like it's no big deal. Later that night, Driver meets his blonde neighbor, Irene, and sparks fly. The next day, he works as a stuntman in a movie, playing, get this, a cop. Ironic. What a plot twist. Driver even has to sign a waiver so the producers aren't held responsible if he kicks the bucket during a stunt. But fear not, he nails it and walks away unscathed. Later, while grocery shopping, Driver spots Irene and her son and tries to avoid them, because sometimes socializing is just too hard, you know? He's just like me. But when he sees they're having car trouble, he can't help but jump in and save the day. What a guy. So Mr. Driver helps his gal carry groceries into her house and immediately becomes BFFs with her son, Benicio. Irene hands him a glass of water. It's like an interview but with less sweating. Mr. Driver reveals he's a mechanic before dipping out. Next up, Shannon, our driver's boss and part-time car dealer, meets up with the motley duo of Jewish mobster Bernie Rose and his half-Italian sidekick Nino at a restaurant. Cue the Godfather vibes. Shannon's trying to get them to invest in Mr. Driver's car racing career, because who wouldn't want a mobster-backed racing team, right? Shannon's like, the guy's the bee's knees. So Bernie asks to meet Mr. Driver just to make sure he's not all talk and no vroom. The next day, Bernie gets an eye full of Driver's driving skills and decides to invest a cool $300K, taking 70% of the profit. Shannon's ecstatic and doesn't bother to haggle. Later, Irene and her son swing by Shannon's workshop for some car TLC. When Mr. Driver spots them, he grins like a kid in a candy store. Shannon's all, wait, he has friends? Soon after, Shannon tells Driver to give Irene a ride home, cause her car needs some extra love. On the way, Mr. Driver takes Irene and her son to a secret spot by a stream for some wholesome frolicking. The trio's friendship levels up and they start holding hands during car rides. Aw, cute. Meanwhile, Bernie and Nino drop by the garage to see how the car's coming along. Nino's a bit salty about the car's exterior, but Bernie's all, it's what's inside that counts, man. Which is also good dating advice. Bernie then has a heart-to-heart with Mr. Driver, regaling him with the story about how Shannon got a good old mobster beatdown from Nino back in the day. You know, just a casual, don't mess up message. One evening, Irene drops the bombshell that her hubby, Gabriel, is in jail but will be out in a week. Mr. Driver isn't thrilled, but hey, love triangles make everything spicier, right? When Gabriel's released, they throw a welcome back shindig, complete with friends and booze, because nothing says I'm home like a hangover. Gabriel realizes he's goofed up big time and does the whole heartfelt apology bit to everyone. He even pinky promises to make things right and blurts out his love for Irene, but Irene's having a tough time picking a side, because she's been swooning over the mysterious brooding Driver dude. Awkward. During the world's most uncomfortable party, the Driver ducks out and bumps into Irene in the hallway. Perfect rom-com moment, am I right? Soon after, Gabriel shows up and basically fanboys over the Driver for helping his family while he was in the slammer. The next day, the Driver hits up his favorite greasy spoon for breakfast when, lo and behold, he runs into a fellow criminal from his past life. The Driver basically tells him to zip it or he'll zip it for him. Talk about a sassy comeback. So zesty. Later, the Driver rolls into a parking lot and spots a couple of sketchy-looking dudes. He finds Gabriel beat into a pulp, like guac levels of smashed, and little Benicio nearby. The Driver's fatherly instincts kick in and he checks on Benicio. Turns out Gabriel owes $40K to some Albanian mobster for his get-out-of-jail-free card. Gabriel got his butt whooped because he wasn't down to rob a pawn shop to pay up. On top of that, the bad guys are threatening to take out Irene and Benicio if he doesn't cough up the dough. Yikes. So the Driver chats with Irene, who's completely in the dark about this whole debt situation. Her hubby told her it was just a couple of boozed up dudes who roughed him up. The next day, our hero driver steals a Mustang and goes to meet the mobsters Gabriel owes. He offers to be their getaway driver and lays down his rules, including the classic 5-minute rule. The head honcho, Cook, lets him know they're not in it for the cash. They just want Gabriel and his fam off the hook after the heist. Deal. The big day arrives and Cook's crew, including Gabriel and a redhead named Blanche, gear up to rob the pawn shop. Our driver sets the timer and Gabriel boasts that he can get it done in 4 minutes flat. Ha! It only takes me 3 minutes. What a show off. Gabriel and Blanche head inside and suddenly another car rolls up in the parking lot. A few minutes later, Blanche hops into the getaway car with the bag and the driver gets the door for her. Chivalry isn't dead, I see. Soon after, Gabriel bursts out of the pawn shop only to be met with a hail of bullets. Rip Gabriel. The driver's shocked but knows he's got a jet, so they speed off, leaving Gabriel behind. Out of nowhere, that random car from earlier starts chasing them. The strangers try to play bumper cars, but our driver's got moves like Jagger. He throws the car into reverse, floors it, and then whips out a sick drift. The other car flips, and that's game over for them. The driver takes Blanche to a hotel room for a little heart-to-heart, trying to get the deets on what went down. Meanwhile, the boys in blue show up at Irene's place, asking her about her deeply departed husband. Poor Irene is left feeling all kinds of confused and heartbroken. The driver dials Irene's digits, but surprise, surprise, it's little Benicio who picks up. The kiddo spills the beans that Irene's busy chatting with the popo. Before hanging up, the driver tells him to pass on the message that he called, like some mysterious cool uncle. This robbery is making headlines with the news reporters describing it as a failed robbery and dubbing the late Gabriel as the world's worst solo criminal. Oddly, the store owner says Gabe was a one-man show and didn't steal a penny. The driver's spidey senses start tingling and he decides to have a heart-to-heart with Blanche. Blanche plays innocent, but the driver ain't buying it. He delivers a slap, telling her that thanks to her shenanigans, Benicio's now in solo parent club, and they almost die too. Blanche fesses up, revealing there was supposed to be another car, $1 million loot, and a double-crossing plan cooked up by Cook. Basically, Cook wanted to steal the stolen goods and pin the blame on some poor sucker, but Gabe's murder? That's news to her. The driver tells her they're gonna pay Cook a visit and she's on board. But just when things start to look up, somebody tries breaking into their love shack. Blanche, in a tragically unglamorous way, catches a bullet in the head while washing her face. Rip in peace. The driver goes full ninja mode, flipping the mattress over for cover and stabbing the first henchman who sneaks in through the window. He then grabs the rifle and sends the second goon to the big sleep. Later that night, the driver gets patched up by a doc. Shannon, being a helpful chap, offers to hide the dough, but the driver's all about revenge, not riches. He tracks down Cook at his classy strip joint and gives him a good old-fashioned finger fracture with a hammer. Cook spills the beans that Nino's the grand puppet master behind the heist. The driver rings up Nino, telling him he's got his cash and wants a meetup to hand it over and call it quits. Little does Nino know, the driver's got payback on his mind. So Irene gets a visit from our driver buddy, who's like, "Hey, Gabe pulled that robbery for his fam, but if you want the cash, it's yours." Irene, being the lovely lady she is, gives him a good old slap. Then our driver friend has a bright idea. We could grab the dough and run off with Benicio, just like a happy sitcom family. Cue the canned laughter. While they're chatting, the elevator pings open, revealing a snazzily dressed dude. The driver spins around and spots the guy packing heat. It's one of Nino's minions. Quick as a wink, the driver smooches Irene passionately. Smooth move, right? Then without missing a beat, he goes full Jackie Chan on the henchman, giving him a nice foot-to-face facial. Shaken, Irene watches as the driver catches up with Shannon and spills the beans. The bad guys know where they live. Shannon, doing his best Judas impression, admits he ratted them out. The driver's rage meter goes off the charts, but he stops himself from going full-on Hulk smash. Instead, he tells Shannon to scram before Nino and Bernie turn him into a human piñata. Meanwhile, Bernie's giving Nino an earful for starting the heist without a heads up. Turns out the pawn shop owner is part of their mobster fam, and he wanted to invest in LA's next big thing, a rival business to mess with Nino and Bernie. Bernie's like, "Dude, if our partners find out we robbed our own, we're toast." So now they've got to off everyone who knows about the robbery, including Shannon and our main man, the driver. Bernie, who's got a serious beef with Cook, decides to sharpen his culinary skills and gives him the knife treatment. Driver, on the other hand, makes a pit stop at a film set and swipes a mask. In the meantime, Shannon's about to make a break for it when Bernie shows up for a little chit-chat. Shannon plays dumb about the driver's whereabouts, but it's no use. Bernie's had enough talk, and he ends Shannon's career with a wrist-slitting finale. Later, the driver finds Shannon taking a permanent bloodbath and decides it's time for some sweet, sweet revenge. He dons his swanky new mask and heads to Nino's bar. And so begins the wildest game of cat and mouse you've ever seen. So picture this, our protagonist is cruising along when he accidentally rear-ends Nino's car. Like, oops, my bad, dude. And then, like a true action hero, he goes full throttle and slams into Nino's car again, sending it flying like it's got wings. Nino's like, ouch, that hurt, and tries to make a run for it. But the driver's having none of it and chases him down, finishing him off with a perfectly executed takedown. Later that night, the driver calls up Bernie. Yo, Nino's toast. Bernie's like, cool, let's meet up, exchange the dough, and call it a truce. The driver knows he's gotta play ball or Bernie's gonna go all Liam Neeson on Irene and Benicio. I will find you and I will kill you style. So he rings up Irene, gets all emo, and tells her how much she and Benicio meant to him. Right in the feels. The next day, the driver and Bernie meet up at some fancy restaurant, because where else do you negotiate life and death deals, am I right? Bernie's like, give me the money and your peeps will be safe. But you, my friend, you're probably toast. The driver's like, fine, deal. As they head outside, they pop open the trunk, and the money's just chilling there like, hey, what's up? Bernie, being the sneaky snake that he is, stabs the driver as soon as he sees the cash. But our protagonist isn't going down without a fight, so he stabs Bernie right back. Uno reverse moment. Bernie dies. Rip in peace. And the driver, though seriously messed up, survives. He chills in the car for a bit, probably contemplating life, the universe, and whether pineapple belongs on pizza, before driving off into the sunset. Irene knocks on the driver's door later, but he's long gone, leaving her and us wondering where in the world he's off to next. Moral of the story? Ryan Gosling.